Welcome to episode 8 of the Jordan Benavides Show. This is going to be the 4th installment in the Making of FUGU series. I'm joined with...
I'm Ashley.
I'm Jackson.
Thanks for stopping by and inviting me to come interview you guys.
Thank you.
So, tell me about what you do.
You get that.
I am the director of photography for FUGU. I also did storyboarding, so you could say storyboard artist, but I kind of categorize it into the same type of deal.
I started off as a key grip for FUGU, and before we began principal photography, I was the gaffer and have been ever since. Also doing that key grip role whenever we didn't have the help we needed. So,
How do your jobs impact the film that we see at the end of the day?
I think you can narrow it down to the visuals of the film, primarily. I mean, everything you see, where either from the teaser, the trailer, or the actual film itself, that's what we do essentially.
Everything you have seen of FUGU, you've definitely had a hand in, and I've had some role in it too. But yeah, it's been a lot of collaboration.
What equipment do you guys use?
We typically stick with the same camera bodies. We use the red cameras a lot, and luckily we used our glass that we threw on was the DZO Vespids. It's a lot of a warm vignette, more soft in comparison to let's say the DZO Arles. The decision was made just because Nathan had a specific vision he wanted for the film, and I thought something a little bit more retro and warm tone kind of fit the sort of style that he was looking for.
There is so much gear that has gone through this set in terms of lighting. I have some of my own fixtures that I use. Kind of carefully collected those to work a couple of freelance jobs. I've only done a couple with them, so using them for film, which requires just a lot more volume and textured lighting, we checked out a whole lot of different stuff. I was having to make a new list of things I needed every day, which was the product of a lot of conversations between me and Ashley. Just figuring out what we needed to do and having our hands when it came time to start shooting. So a lot of different things and a lot of repurposing and creative uses of things being used in non-conventional ways. So
I imagine all these moving pieces leads to some problems here and there, right?
Yeah. There's definitely some troubleshooting. We had to do a few sketchy rigs. We hung a camera, this one right here, not 10 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet, over our heads, which is something I had never done before. I had we had a key grip on set that day, freelances, and he was really helping me at least feel more secure about how I was rigging out that camera. So a lot of really cool things I'd never gotten to do before. They were, a little scary, but it was so satisfying to see those crazy shots that we got that I have never even attempted before.
Yep.
Bouncing off of him, there was one day he wasn't here, and we had to get a really high angle from that corner over there actually into this booth. So we actually, with that camera's been through it. We put it through a ladder, and we screwed on the tripod head, and we just tilted down on a 16 millimeter. Got you a really nice shot though.
Yeah, that was an interesting one.
Yeah, and we actually did that twice. We did that on, was it the last day?
Yeah,
And then we
the
also
last day here.
We did that on the first and the last day because we had a total of 3 overnights here. So we did that shot, or I guess that rig build twice, the first and the last day. But it looked good.
Aside from, actually being a part of setting everything up and putting the cameras where they're supposed to be, how else do you guys impact the style of the film?
Well, as director of photography, I collaborated a lot with Nathan from the early days. I think we sat down together in probably late August or maybe early September, and we read the script, and as a storyboard artist, I would pitch ideas to him, and I'd be like, during this conversation, let's say they're having a heart-to-heart in this scene, in this booth. What is a way that we can convey to the viewer that this is supposed to be a heartfelt moment, that our characters are supposed to feel aligned, or maybe they feel different. You don't know. So there's a lot of pitching to Nathan and seeing where his ideas can overtake mine, or when mine can overtake his, and sort of like how you said it earlier, just very collaborative.
What about you?
Well, man, the style for FUGU was already set before I even came on. Not entirely, but just so many. It was so refreshing to see all the mood boards, all the reference shots, all like the just how firm of an idea, like at least from a lighting standpoint, just color and texture, the way that you and Nathan wanted that to come to screen was just, I had a pretty good idea of what I had to do for every scene. So that was just really great. And it's always nice to work with like a team that has that vision and knows exactly what they want to carry out.
What goes into lighting each of the shots? There are so many different parts. Even just where we're sitting at, this is one spot, and it took us so long to set everything up, right?
Oh.
So you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But what are the different things that go into creating those looks that really fit with what is already set for the film? That idea of how it's supposed to look.
For me, I feel like a lot of times I'm doing projects and it feels like practice. Like projects are practice. Mm-hmm. But FUGU felt like a place for me to really like step up and implement a lot of the theory, a lot of the techniques that I had tried in like bite-sized pieces and all these other places, and bring it all together. Things that I already knew how to do, and so it really just came down to just a lot of long meetings, mostly with you, just really breaking down what needed to happen with lighting, and there were a lot of times it wouldn't appear the way I was imagining it would. Some plans didn't work, so it's just having that A plan and then having B, C, and maybe even D in the back of the head, and so just knowing what they wanted and how I could translate that with what I know.
Bouncing off of Carwile, I think he said it in a way that it really does apply to me. It's being in this position on a set like FUGU, it really gives you the discipline and the chance to step up to your role. That being said, there was a lot of instances where like issues would come up, or maybe you had an initial idea and you had to pivot last minute. So then I have to delegate how we're switching it up to my cam ops or my gaffer, so he can then tell his lighting team how we're changing it, how we're doing it. But yeah, it's just being in such a high position and having all these people to have to tell information to, it really did make me step up and have me solidify my ideas, because I can't be switching it up last minute, because that'll cost us time. It'll cost us to be behind schedule. So having to really step up and solidify and just be secure in your decisions, I think that's something that I really took out of this project.
One of the things that I've heard out of everybody that I've talked to is that Nathan has had such a very clear idea of what everything's supposed to look like. But you guys have your own influences too. What are those things that influence, your style and the way that you make these decisions on your own? And how do you kind of work them in while still keeping true to what the film is supposed to look like?
I think that comes into like the minutia. Like obviously we get, a nice, like passionate vision from Nathan, but when we're on set, when we're like boots on the ground, we're on the location, it's like things change. And so it really comes down to a lot of the time how I see the space, how I want to, like how I think I can manipulate the light to be dynamic, to feel diegetic, and not be super excessive. I mean, there are like a lot of like discussions that we had where like Nathan was like so set on something, he wanted to shoot like this little like corner like all the way in the back of like this restaurant, and it was like the whole idea is he wanted the space to feel secluded. But when I came out on a tech scout, I was like, I was like, I think this is just like so small, it'd be really weird to light, and it would just feel really just flat. And so that was where like my intention, my ideas came through to actually move us over here to this location. And so we've got like some more dynamic texture and everything. Not just a white wall, but it really just comes down to, I mean, I chose like a almost, I would say I probably mostly decided the texture of the light. I was deciding how we're diffusing it, how we're like even the color, like I would get a little bit of input from you and Nathan, but mostly I was deciding that, at least to like a certain degree. It was like you take it to a certain point and then you just hand it off to the next level. Was how it felt to me.
I think your question was like, how do I put in my style when he's so...
Yeah. So like, what are your influences and how do you still get to use them and put your own touch on things while still keeping true to Nathan's vision overall?
I think a scenario that popped in my head was there's a scene towards the end of the film, and we had our storyboards and we had, we read through the script and we've had the shot list done for a little bit. And I looked over it and I told Nathan, hey, I know you really want it to be shot like this, but I think we can go a level up, a level further. And I remember it was a day in December. We couldn't shoot much because of winter break and other factors, but me and Nathan literally stayed together for, I don't know, maybe like 8 hours, just rereading that scene, trying stuff out on the little viewfinder phone app. And we just had so much creativeness that we wanted to try out and just, how cool it'd be if we go handheld on this shot and then it gets on sticks and you're low angle tilting up and we make a triangle with the characters. So I think that's kind of how that collaboration works between me and Nathan in terms of style. It's like he has a very specific way he wants the story to be shown, But then I'll tell them like, hey, I think we can go further. Like, let's do it. Why not? Why are we holding ourselves back? But that scenario just came up in my head because I just remember it so vividly. We literally redid the whole scene, and it turned out to be really fun to shoot.
So we are on set right now. This is where a good majority of the film was shot, right? How do you work with the environment around you, especially with lighting? Because I mean, there's lights all over the place. How do you still manage to create the space that you want while existing in another environment that's already made? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it starts with looking at the space, banging my head against a wall, and then coming up with solutions. No, like there are a lot of great I was really surprised when I came here the first time because it's like such a cool location, especially for like just what the ideas that y'all were wanting to execute. Like it really worked out for that, which I thought was so nice. But it was a lot of like scrappy like little creative solutions to things. I'm actually one of the things that we did a lot, and I'm doing it right now in the background here, is I taped paper towels to because all these lights are on dimmers. But if I want to bring this one down, those also come down or they turn off. They're all on one thing, including even that sign back there, which is really frustrating. I thought it'd be plugged in somewhere, but it's not. So it's really just figuring out things like that, and coming up with ideas, like being willing to come up with an idea that could sound really dumb, but when you actually put it to practice, like it, it can make all the difference.
Having so many locations for a film like this, it really changed things a lot from pre to actual production. So this restaurant was really nice because there's a lot of space to walk around and we have a lot of hallways and a lot of things, but in terms of camera positioning and stuff, you have to move things around. Like those cameras, we had to fly out 2 tables, I think.
Well, yeah, no. So kind of in the same idea, like you mentioned, there was another spot that you guys were going to film at, and you felt that it was too small. Are there other changes that you make when you see the location that you're at? Are there, you move here now, and now there's different angles you can take. There's different moves you can make. What are some of those things that you have decided on that made it into the final cut of the film? Is there any specific changes, or maybe there's something that, just anything like that you want to talk about?
I don't know the specific scene number, but there is a scene where they're running away from the cops. And the original plan was to have it all static on sticks or tripod. And it wasn't looking good. And we had our like a 45-minute like lunch break, even though it was 9 p.m. And I was just thinking, and while everyone else was having lunch, I pulled Nathan to the side and I was like, dude, switch it up, like last minute. And it ended up being really cool. We went handheld the whole time, and I pulled this guy off from his lunch, and I was like, actually, instead of shooting it this way, we're gonna go handheld. It was the scene by Vormans.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I heard panning that little like tube light to like it was mimicking a cop car.
So many components to it.
Just sprinting with it.
So there was that. I think he rigged up some MCs to the wall, and he had another light bouncing off the corner, and then he had to hold that like tube light as a police car. And then I was like, and then we're gonna whip pan and then whip back. So that was really fun because it was like on the spot and it ended up being really cool. I've heard a lot of praise about it, being like, dude, that shot was good. Like you go here, 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 and then you end here. It's like really cool.
That was a fun, like, especially because we started doing that type of like range of movement in a lot of our shots.
Yeah.
Because in that case, and most of those cases, it means I gotta hang lights, which is something I don't normally do. So it was like figuring that part out was, and putting that all into practice was really cool. I was like, I really liked how we got there. We looked at the space, and then we both were like, we need to change this. And so yeah.
Going off of him, how he said how ever since that moment we've kind of switched to more incorporating more movement. I totally completely agree, because I showed our professor that shot scene, and he was like, I want to see more of it, and I was like, okay, so we need to go. And that was like what, like the first or second day of shooting. It was back in October, November.
It was back in October, and you're talking to him like the next couple of days. I know you said that. That's cool.
Yeah, he really dictated, like, I want to see more of this. And then I was like, okay, let me look back at these storyboards and let me see where I can add more handheld movement, or where the story needs more movement to feel more attached to these characters. Because ultimately, that's what you want to do.
We talked a little bit about keeping your own influences and adding them to the film. How would you describe each other's styles?
I got you first. You what I like a lot about your style compared to a lot of other cinematographers at UNT, you are like super dynamic. I feel like too often, and I haven't seen the other productions. I feel like too often it's like those really creative shots get kind of skipped over, especially because of the time that we were under, like the time pressure, especially on those overnights. But still, like working through those really like dynamic, moving, like rapid pace scenes, like those felt more like real and more like they had more tension. And I really liked working on the montage sequence and all the cool like shots, and it just felt so like going back and forth between like the super like stiff and like clean procedural to the like rapid like shaky cam like dramatic moments. It felt like smooth, it felt natural, and it felt like it all belonged together. So it was really cool.
How am I supposed to top that? Your lighting is good. No, what I really like about working with Jackson is he's really efficient, and I have this like ease of mind where if I have a specific look and I let him know beforehand, like I don't have to worry too much about making sure that it's gonna get me there with the shot. Does that make sense? So like, I could use the booth scene for example. I told them that we were gonna be cross shooting and that we were gonna be rolling 3 cams at once, sort of like we are right now. But after some feedback from our professor and other people, we decided not to, and instead we just kind of rotate around the booth. So we'll start with shooting your coverage, we'll pivot to flipping it like 180, we'll shoot this person's coverage, and then we'll do a whole other setup for B cam or A cam to get that 2 shot. And I could tell Jackson that, and he'll know exactly how to get me that, so I can worry about other logistical things that have to do with camera. But that being said, though, it's so nice and so refreshing to work with someone that knows how to do it, knows exactly what you want, and even offers their own like taste, and it looks really good. You have a lot of texture going on, you don't look flat, you got harsh shadows when you need to, you have intense lighting when you need to, and during this film there's a lot of different emotions that go into it. So one of the key parts from a visual standpoint, it's manipulating that lighting to make sure that you understand those feelings, and I think you really achieve it and you do it justice.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask you first because I know you have an answer to this. We've talked about it before.
I'm scared.
Do you have a favorite shot or scene that you guys worked on throughout the film?
Well,
Because we talked,
yeah.
we touched on it kind of, but I want to know what your favorite is that you.
There's just so many.
Well, I did really like the montage because that was a super easy day, and also just like those kinds of shots where it's just like, I'm a sucker for good inserts where it's just like, you know, the cool little, the tiny, well detailed.
30 minutes for one shot. That's like 10 seconds. That's what he likes, apparently.
Yeah. My favorite shot might be, because it turned out so much better than I was like expecting it to look good, and then it really looked super just clean and like very like exactly how I pictured it was like the shot at the end. I think it's where the title card rolls, where he like pushes out the FUGU, and it's just like there's a little like spotlight on it, and it looks like I mean the art team did such a good job, but that like looked like I would eat it. Like I wanted that right then and there. I wanted to eat that. But that shot just felt good to see that one on monitor. I was like, yeah, that was a good one.
You talked about, I think you mentioned it in the last one that we had together.
Oh.
How badly you wanted to work with the split diopter lens, and I know that was I got to see the film, and it was a really cool shot.
Oh, yes.
Maybe not your favorite. I don't know. You'd have to tell me about that, but yeah, what was it like getting to work with that kind of equipment and seeing it on the screen?
So split diopter or split field shot was something that I've seen in a couple films, and I was like, it's really cool how they have two things in focus, but you can definitely tell one thing's farther than the other. And if you know anything about cameras, you can't really achieve that without this little piece of glass. So basically it's like a rotating thing you thread on to the lens, and half of it is glass and half of it isn't. And you can go based on strength, how far you want the person or close you want the person to be. But what was really cool about that is initially I had an idea where I wanted to use it, but due to some constraints with shipping, we didn't get to use it how it ideally was supposed to. Nevertheless, though, we did end up using it. We used it towards the end of their fight scene where, you know, everything starts to calm down, and I kind of wanted to do it, well, partially because it came late, but also because I just think it's really cool to see our main character and our background character sort of like on the same, sort of like catching their breath, you know. But going back to your original question, sorry. Like my favorite shot is there's a scene where they're in this booth and they're having a heart-to-heart conversation, and our character says something that sort of shifts the conversation, and we end up breaking the 180. So the camera's now on this side of this wall grid thing, and there's a shot where they are both talking, where the elder is pouring sake to the youngling. And if you know anything about Asian culture, it's usually the other way around, because, you know, you have to respect your elders. But in this scenario, since they're now on the same plane, on the same level, it's sort of like a mutual respect kind of thing. And the shot there, it captures both of them within this like fence thingy. I just think it looks really cool, like visually appealing. You see the action happening, you see these characters sort of like separated by these shapes, but still they're on the same page. So that's got to be my favorite shot.
What does your work mean to you?
I think by work for me, just seeing it all put together, it's really, really, really gratifying. It's just like you've put in so much time, so much effort for this, and you finally see it and you hear that it's actually good, and it's just gratifying. It makes you feel worth it. It makes you feel like you can keep going, that you actually like the love of the game, you know. But yeah, for me, I think it just means a way to output my creativity and sort of have it seen. I think that's the beautiful part of art, is just having others appreciate it how you appreciate it.
Yeah. For me, it's just like everything I do is intentional for one way or another. And well, most everything I do. Probably a couple things I'm like, oh, why did I do that? But at the end of the day, it's all just so the story feels real, and with all the wacky, misadventures are going on, that it feels real, that it feels natural. That is like the first step of everything. I just want it to feel like that is what makes sense for the story. And then from there is that's when you bring in the style, you bring it to that level to where someone watches it and they really feel the story at that point. So it's always like I'm always hitting that first mark before I can say, all right, I'm done. But I'm always aiming for that mark where it's like, especially in those key moments where you feel what the characters are feeling, where you understand them, where you connect with these characters, and connect to the story. And when I succeed, when those scenes like start coming together, I really do, like, I'm finding a new joy for like at least watching the editing process and seeing it like be assembled, because it's so cool to watch that come together.
I think that leaves me with one more question, which is, what is next for you? Going through all of this and being a part of it and getting to see, from beginning to end, where do you feel like you go from here?
I feel like in today's day and age, you're bouncing up and down a lot. I've been a director of photography. I've been a PA, and it's like kind of depending on like the scale and everything. You work, some bigger roles on smaller productions, and then like not quite as big roles on more ambitious productions. And I really just want to keep working on those like ambitious productions like FUGU, and slowly get better, do more, and even be in a like even more control in a higher leadership position, on an even bigger production. So just moving on to to bigger and better things.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the goal is to keep, how he said it, being on these tight, like, super passionate productions. But, it's kind of weird thinking about a future where it's not very linear. It's not like a finance major. You just, okay, let's go work at a bank, It's more of like, find what you like, whether it be audio, camera, lighting, producing, writing. There's just so many pathways in this field, which is what's great about it. But there's also that fear of uncertainty with something, with any creative field, I'm sure. So ultimately, I think you just want to find that field that you feel really passionate about. And, after trying a couple things, like camera stuff and maybe even some post stuff, but I think that's what's next for me. And being open to it is, I think, something that is helping me sort of overcome those fear emotions, or of uncertainty, I should say. So just where life takes me, I think it's pretty much an open book. We're young, we don't have a lot to lose. So I think putting yourself out there, taking those risks, trying stuff out, I think that's sort of like my kind of lifestyle, I suppose.
All right. Well, I wish you guys the best of luck in all the things that you do next. But I do appreciate you guys having me here to interview, and it was great to hear about everything.
Thank you.